Where do you want to be in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? You want to be dancing at your grandchildren's weddings. You don't want to be on one of those walker stroller things at the age of 60, 70. You want to be having the hossen on your shoulders if you can, at the age of 85 and 90. Ultra processed foods are the most damaging for the body, for the mind, and for the soul. That's the truth.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Frum Health Club Podcast. I'm your host, Mendel Prushinsky. Here at the Frum Health Club, we believe that health isn't separate from our Yiddishkeit. It's all part of it. When we strengthen our health, we become better able to serve Hashem, our families, and our communities with energy, clarity, and joy. Today's guest is Dr. Avraham Gundle, a gut health specialist and functional medicine practitioner with more than 30 years of clinical experience helping people overcome chronic digestive issues and complex health challenges. Dr. Gundle's journey into gut health didn't begin in a classroom or clinic. It began as a father searching for answers. His daughter, who has special needs, struggled with severe digestive issues that conventional medicine was unable to resolve. Determined to help her, Dr. Gundle embarked on a decades-long journey studying natural medicine, functional nutrition, mind-body healing, and holistic approaches from experts around the world. What he discovered transformed not only his daughter's health, but his own. After struggling with digestive issues himself for much of his life, he found lasting healing by addressing the root causes rather than simply managing the symptoms. Today, Dr. Gundle helps people suffer from IBS, Crohn's disease, bloating, autoimmune conditions, chronic fatigue, anxiety, diabetes, and many other chronic health issues by focusing on one core belief, that the gut is often the gateway to healing physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Dr. Gundle, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Mendel. Thank you for inviting me. I've been following you with great interest. And I was just sharing before we got started how you pointed me and my son in the right direction when we visited Ashdod and went to work out in a local Frum gym there. So all the kudos to you for your outstanding work. So thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here on the podcast. So if you could maybe take us back to how your journey started into gut health and share that with us.
My journey didn't start in the clinic. As you mentioned in the intro, we're blessed with 5 beautiful kids. 3 of them had major health challenges, but one particularly is a special needs child. She's my biggest teacher. She's 22 years old and still struggles every day. When going back, really 21 years, even before that, 3-4 months after her birth, we knew that something was wrong, but the doctors just said delay in development, etc. Bottom line, after pressing the system, we got an MRI, got a clear diagnosis of her condition, which didn't bode well on paper for the future. She struggled from seizures. She still does. Epilepsy is part of her life, which we've managed to tone down significantly through this journey that I'm on with her. And I just remember distinctly sitting at the table, at the kitchen table. My wife and I had a little pink baby spoon in her mouth, just trying to coax her to eat a little bit more. She struggled not only from epilepsy, but skin conditions and problem sleeping, major dysregulation, and digestive problems that kind of go hand in hand. She had all the scopes up, down. We'd been to all the experts, all the consultants, and we were at a total loss. And I remember with that little pink spoon coaxing her to eat something small, as she was not thriving. She was losing weight. She was doing extremely poorly. My eyes crossed my wife's eyes at the table, and we kind of just took a sigh. And there's a corner of my heart that really did sink into like a hopeless, dark space. But something turned in me and said, I got to find a solution. This is a must. This is not just like helping this kid. This is so much more than that. There's my wife. There's my family. There's what was interesting, Mendel, though, in part of that struggle in those early days is that I think what touched a chord in me deeply with her struggle is my struggle. I inherited beautiful things from our folks, And I'm not saying who, but one of them has a major digestive problem. And I just thought it was hereditary, it was genetics, and that's just how it was. I had major stomach problems as a kid growing up, stomach pain, bloating, gas, IBS type symptoms, bathroom dashes at the most inconvenient and compromising times. And I kind of felt it, I'd seen doctors and stuff, but nothing, no real resolution. And in my mind, there was a belief, this is hereditary. Kind of lumped with it. So seeing my daughter suffer, feeling and understanding the pain of digestive issues myself, I set on really a 30-year project. I traveled the world extensively, went to many, many places through the Amazon, through Mexico, through the Far East, in my quest to find answers, to meet experts. I met a lot of charlatans, made a lot of painful and costly mistakes in my journey. I learned many, many lessons, and I came to a place where I was able to put together a very varied program, very dynamic program to help this child. She's now, as I mentioned, 22. She loves all my pickled fermentings in the home. She eats well. She's thriving. Her weight is stabilized. Her seizures are infrequent, thank God. Part of her life, but a part of her life. We've learned to manage it well, learned to manage her well. And that's part of the backstory that led me to create a program to really help people with these issues.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. You spent, of course, as you mentioned, decades searching for these solutions. What were some of the biggest lessons that you learned along the way?
The first lesson is there's divine intelligence in our body running the show. That's number one. We affirm it when we say our Asher Yatzar, hopefully with a grateful heart and with intention. And I started really just stopping, not walking, not rushing, just stop and really, really open into that blessing, to really deepen into the gratitude that that blessing has to offer, because I've been there. So the first lesson is this intelligence within our body from HaKadosh Baruch, the Chochmah in our guf, that when we really get out of the way and support healing, the body has a remarkable ability to heal, Mendel. And that is, I'm going to say, the first thing. So I'd say to anyone, like wherever you're struggling, don't give up like I did, almost stayed there. There's wisdom and you can get healing. The second thing is that there are many, many pathways to healing. I learned Ayurvedic medicine. I learned Western herbs. I learned from the Amazonian people. I learned from the Hawaiian traditional healers. I was in the Navajo with the Navajo peoples, understanding their healing strategies and pathways. I was with the Japanese healing people, Indonesia, etc. I'm not going to go into the whole. I've got journals of this travel, but there are many pathways to heal. And we say, Makdim Refola Maka, Kodesh Baruch Hu's got the healing waiting in the wings, waiting for us to show up with prayer, with efforts, with etc. I think the third thing, Mendel, that's really important to me in terms of bringing in the psycho-spiritual part to healing is that symptoms have a message. Symptoms have a meaning. And they're not just like something to knock out and get rid of. They are our teacher. Almost symptoms are our healing teacher. And I think if we enter into, I'm going to say, a dialogue with a symptom or engaging it to teach us, we will definitely fast track our healing and be wiser on the other side.
Wow. Wow. So insightful. Yeah. I wanted to also ask, people often hear the phrase gut health. I think right now it's really popular to discuss gut health, and people are learning more about gut health. But what does it actually mean?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it simple. Firstly, what is the gut? The gut is we referring to the digestive system, but I'll just make it really simple. The gut does three things. It digests our food, it absorbs our food, and it excretes our food. And digestive problems can really occur in any one or all three or more of these three simple functions of the gut. Obviously, from a bigger perspective, it also includes not only the stomach and the large and small intestine, but all the organs of digestion. the role the spleen has, the role the liver and gallbladder has, etc. But when I'm working with the gut, I'm really looking at where are the problems going wrong in this simplified version, let's say the digestion, the absorption, and the excretion.
Mm-hmm. And what are some most common symptoms that might actually be gut related, but people don't realize it?
That's a really good question. So, firstly, there are my six, call it, favorite gut everything connections. There's the gut brain connection most people have heard about, the gut immune connection, the gut hormone connection, the gut skin connection, the gut metabolic connection. There's more than half a dozen of these amazing connections. For example, over 85% of our immune system is based in our digestive system. So
Wow.
when you say, what are some of the symptoms people can be suffering from that are not gut related? Simply put, everything, right? So when we
Yeah.
know that our immune system is 85% gut based, then people get colds and flus a lot, viruses. They say, oh, they just got a low immune system. I hear that a lot. Or whatever goes around, they're going to catch, not only in it's a sort of stomach flu, but low immune system allergies. Skin issues, Mendel, are huge. Eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis. I had a patient, actually, 52-year-old male from England, who reached out to me with a condition called psoriatic arthritis, a combination of psoriasis and arthritis. His skin looked like crocodile's back. His joints were pain and inflamed. He was on methotrexate, some medications, and cortisone, and he was trying to bring himself down. He heard of me. We worked together. I never treated his skin directly. I never treated his joints directly. I just focused for the first 3 months on helping and healing his digestive system. He did not come to me for a digestive problem, but because I understand the intimate connections with the gut and everything, after 3 months, his skin was clearing up. He woke up with less joint pain. He was able to return to work. He began to get his life back slowly and incrementally.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible. I know that, a lot of doctors, because you are a functional medicine doctor, so you are not just looking at the symptoms, but would you say that if you came to a conventional doctor, they would be treating more like the symptoms of the skin instead of going deeper and trying to figure out the root cause for this
Yes.
person?
Firstly, the model is slowly changing. But yes, that's the traditional model. Like this fellow, he was treated by the consultant experts in hospitals, and these are good people doing outstanding work. However, the model, the map of the world, is just
Mhm.
about treating disease. It's not about looking under the hood and getting to root causes yet. It's slowly changing. It will change completely in due course.
Yeah. Wow. So you mentioned that, of course, the brain and the gut are very much connected, and I think when people think about, like, when they get nervous, they start, like, maybe their stomach hurts or they want to go to the bathroom. But could you explain to us, like, biologically, what is the
Sure.
connection there?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, firstly, just going back to Chazal, the word panim, face, and the word panim are the same letters, right? And the
Wow.
Gemara
Yeah.
says if a person gets embarrassed, their stomach gets, their face and their stomach change color. So we can just see through the lens of Chazal understood the body-mind connection. We are body and soul. We've basically a soul that's been bodied through this journey in this life. And it's really Greek thinking to think, it's two separate systems. It's one system.
Yeah.
And the Torah teaches that pathway. So, how technically, there are 12 cranial nerves, 12 nerves in the brain. One of the main nerves, for this discussion, is called the vagus nerve,
Mhm.
vagus. And this nerve goes directly from our brain down through our throat, through our diaphragm, and supplies the juice, the nerve food for the entire digestive system. I like to tell my patients that our stomach, our digestive system, is like a pregnant woman in a way. She has a baby in her tummy, and every experience she has, her feelings, her thoughts, her emotions, what she eats, what she drinks, what music she listens to, her everything she experiences in life, the baby is hardwired to feel that and experience that too through her nervous system. So our gut is that baby. So whether we are pregnant or not, we have a baby in our tummy that's hardwired through the vagus nerve. In fact, the vagus nerve comes from the Latin word, you've probably heard of the word vagabond. A vagabond is someone who's like a vagrant, right? And they travel. The vagus, because it travels so far all through our parasympathetic nervous system. So we are hardwired. Everything we experience, strong emotions. In fact, I was at a research conference last week, and one of the research scientists talking about lifestyle medicine and body-mind medicine shared some research that within 40 seconds, it's probably less than that, you're saying, but within 40 seconds of a person experiencing a strong negative emotion, like anger, rage, something like that, there's an entire physiological change with hormones, with chemicals in the body, adrenaline, cortisol, histamine, all sorts of inflammatory markers. And over time, that will corrode the body. And the opposite is true, thinking loving, grateful, beautiful thoughts, that too will stimulate healing and calm in the body.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. So would you say that people that have anxiety or maybe brain fog, things like that, that could be from issues of the gut?
Yes, that's true. In fact, some months back, I was giving a webinar on gut health. My wife was on the Zoom, she was watching, and I mentioned a formula to help people who are suffering from brain fog, from anxiety, from low mood, from depression, just because most people don't know, Mendel, that over 95% of serotonin is made not in the head, is made in the gut. And over 50% of dopamine is made in our gut. What that means is that these two neurotransmitters are specifically required to facilitate upbeat, buoyant, joyous mindset, so to speak, and regulate mood and regulate sleep and regulate muscle coordination and regulate hunger and so many different things. And when people take anti-anxiety medications, they are SSRIs. That means a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. In English, what that means is they prevent serotonin to be broken down in the brain and allow more to be circulating in the brain. They don't make more, they just provide more to be available. But where's that serotonin made? Over 90% is made in the gut.
Wow.
So I recommended a simple at-home practice to have a happier gut, to set the environment for healthy neurotransmitter stimulation. And she thought, well, that's interesting. Well, it's safe. And she doesn't have to check with a doctor. And she was working with a client the next day who was maxed out on her anti-anxiety medications. She didn't want to take more. And she was going through a really, really hard time. So my wife said, listen, I don't know if you're open to experiment, but this is a safe thing you can try. So she gave her the recipe. And within 3 days, this woman's mood was back up to a regulated place without adjusting her meds. And that's when, my wife said, my gosh, this stuff really works. Obviously, she knew that. There's a difference between knowing it and knowing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're practices that we should all be doing. We all want good neurotransmitters. We all want great skin. We all want clear thinking. We all want cognitive well-being, memory, mood, all that stuff, immune system. So the gut is the hub.
Wow. Could you share what were some of those things that you shared
sure.
with us?
So firstly, the whole world of probiotics is a huge universe. And the latest research is even identifying specific species, specific strands strains of gut bacteria for different diseases. So they are treated today, people are being treated with specific scientifically based strains of probiotics for different conditions. So I didn't want to get that granular on a public webinar, but I suggested firstly, increase healthy fiber, because fiber are what's called prebiotics, and they create an environment for the food, for the friendly bacteria. So I recommended on this webinar a combination of 3 fibers. One is flax seeds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds. To grind them up, and I suggested a ratio of 2 parts flax, 1 part chia, and 1 part hemp. Now, for those of you in Israel who can't get hemp seeds, don't worry. It's not so easily available for legislation reasons, unfortunately. But you can just use chia, or you can just use flax, or you can use them both together. You grind them up or buy them from the store, ground up, and you start literally with a teaspoon in a 6-ounce cup of warm water. Let it sit for a few minutes to soften and kind of pre-digest. And you drink that once a day for 3 days, and then you gradually build up to the right dose for your body. And it's important that your listeners know, when you're introducing fibers, even good fibers, it's medication. You have to dose up correctly, or else there could be gas and stomach pain and all sorts of things if you increase fiber too. So that was the one thing. Then I recommended a probiotic, and I suggested she take that first thing in the morning and last thing at night on an empty stomach, like before bed, the probiotic, and in the morning, first thing in the morning, with a 6-ounce glass of water, and then her prebiotics, her fiber. Since she was already taking some fiber, we were able to start her on a high level. Within 3 days, this woman had that normalization.
Wow, that's incredible. What would you say are foods that are causing the most damage in modern diets?
Well,
Foods that are causing
I
damage?
think there's hands down, ultra processed foods are the most damaging for the body, for the mind, and for the soul. That's the truth. In fact, there was a BBC, a doctor in the UK who created a documentary on BBC, and in my recent webinar, actually, with permission, showed a little clip from this documentary for people to see how destructive these foods are and the research going into these foods. So ultra processed food is, number one, the biggest cause of our physical demise. What does that mean? Firstly, for your listeners who may be interested in a book that goes into a deep dive, which includes also the food engineering, the manipulation behind the scenes by the pharmaceutical and food companies, and also research about what that does to our gut microbiome. In fact, ultra-processed foods destroy the gut microbiome and increase inflammation, and a condition called leaky gut syndrome, where the gut barrier is eroded and basically opens the door to many health challenges. So he has a book, very engaging read, called Ultra Processed People. And this is by Dr. Chris Van Tulleken, Tulleken, Ultra Processed People. I love that title. And it's a deep dive for anyone who really wants to understand the dangers and how noxious these foods are, and how marketing has really got the better of us in a way, unless you are aware. By the way, I tell a lot of my patients, don't buy health food at the health food store. And they go, what do you mean? So, because when you go to a health food store, your guard's down and you think everything's healthy. So you make less informed decisions. But if you go to, cheaper coal, like, you're not in a health food store. So you're going to read labels, hopefully, if you're a conscious shopper, and you're going to do proper due diligence. So the first thing is ultra processed food. That's got to be. The second thing, Mendel, is sugar. If you just do a Google search, a chat search, how many names for sugar are there? I don't know if it was 86 plus, but there are many, many names for sugar, as the companies try and hide it and disguise it in all sorts of ways, because sugar sells. That's simple as, for example, fructose corn syrup is half the price of sucrose, of sugar, and many times sweeter. So of course, manufacturing companies are going to sneak it into everything because it just tastes so yummy, right? And they just want you to come back and buy some more. And type 2 diabetes is rampant, Mendel. And type 2 diabetes is 100% reversible. You in the health trade, you look around, you go to show all these beautiful Jews. I see 35-year-old, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, with big stomachs. And my heart is just full of prayer, guys, just make conscious choices slowly. Because I'm seeing the other end when things fail and they come to me, and it's years of abuse or just not knowing. People don't know. And so really it's ultra processed food. The second is sugars. And there's another book called Pure, White and Deadly by John Yudkin, Yudkin. It's an old book. It's a classic book, and it's still true. So I would say those two things, the ultra processed foods and all the sugars. And then if you want a third one, just to round it off, is processed oils.
Seed
Staying
oils.
away from all the processed oils. These oils are really, they are carcinogenic. They may taste great. They may stay on the shelf shelf a long time and survive a nuclear explosion, but they're not good. They're not good for us. They're not good for us. Those three things I'd say, like, switch out gradually.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. This question might be a bit controversial. If you don't want to answer, we'll edit it out later. But what would you say, like in the Frum religious world, why are we seeing so many people struggling from gut issues and just preventable disease as well? Like what are some of the most common causes for that, specifically in the Frum world?
Mendel, part could be socioeconomic, just people on a tight budget, needing to feed a large family, needing food to go a long way. A loaf of white bread is cheaper than a whole sourdough spelt, for example, a little roll like this for like 35 shekels or something. That's not going to feed a family of 4, 6, 8.
Mm.
That's one part. The processed foods are cheaper. They are cheaper.
Yeah.
So that's just to be fair, I think, a piece. The second thing is, I think, awareness, Mendel. I really do. I think people don't really know. They don't really know the scoop, the inside scoop. It's not a secret, but that's one thing. I mean, since, cigarette packet says smoking causes cancer, I think cigarette smoking has gone through the roof. It sells even higher. So there is an education piece when it comes to food. The third could just be cultural. Like Shabbos comes around at least these days once a week, right? So we're eating a ton, eating much more. People forget the stomach is, make a fist, Mendel. Let me see your fist, like a fist pump, right? That's how big your stomach is, right? This big. Okay, it
Wow.
expands a little bit. So, I mean, if you see the food on people's plates, the second helping, the challenge, the dessert, it's like, what stomach are you feeding there? So I think it's just the culture and, Kiddush. I'm not talking about Kiddush clubs, but there's Kiddush after davening, and then the kugels and the razor things, and maybe men are hungry after long davening. And then let's come home and there's another meal, right? And there's sort of shishis, and then there's malka. It's like, it kind of stacks. There's a condition I called chronic reversible Shabbositis. It's not a medical term, but basically it's a chronic condition of abusing Shabbos, right? And it's just overeating, not moving your
I think we
body.
all know this condition.
Say again, please.
I think a lot of people know about this condition.
Right. So it doesn't have to be. That used to be me. I suffered from chronic Shabbositis. I didn't know it was reversible. Now I do. But I'd say that's the thing. I think it's socioeconomic, to be fair. I think people don't really know. I think there's cultural issues as well. Yeah.
So another question, like for someone that is a parent of young kids, you send your kids to school and you want the best for them, and they come back with 6 packs of chips from 3 birthdays and candies for more sugar than they should be having in a week in one day. How do you tackle that? That's a question that I constantly ask myself. We don't have this in our house, but when they go out to school or whatever, it's really difficult.
My wife often says bribery and correction, right? So, firstly, this is part of chinuch bonim. This is absolutely a part of raising our children eventually when they become independent decision makers, to role model. You can't be saying one thing to your kids and doing something else. So, making conscious decisions. And I think just, have just a warm, loving conversation. And it starts, doesn't start at 7 or 8 or 9. It starts, as soon as they start going, Emma will give you this, and just say, and you can use money, you can use healthier treats, you can use quality time. Abba will take you to the park, Emma will do this, Abba will read a book. Don't only use food, but
Mm.
use the most precious commodity we have with our family is ourselves, our presence, right? That's the biggest gift we can give. You'll take those off them or let them offer it up, and in exchange, in the right way, with the right frame of mind, and best, as my wife teaches, is with our family, it's best all of this is done is lo b'shas ma'aseh. What that means is not in the heat of the moment where they're like coming back, they're hungry, and you got all these pekalach and all these food bags, and now you want to barter. Come home, drink, wash their hands, drink some water, chill, connect, have some food, and then, I don't know, maybe before bedtime, another time, have this conversation.
Yeah.
And you'll
Wow.
win some and you'll lose some, and that's part of the long haul journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really great answer. Thank you for that. What would you say are also some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they try to heal their gut? When they find out they have a gut issue, what would you say are some of the biggest mistakes?
I think uh, some of my best patients, at least the patients who do the best, are self-educators. So
Mm.
while I encourage people to go to ChatGPT and upload their blood test results and their X-ray reports and the MRIs and, just engage, I'd say one of the first mistakes is a mindset, and another mistake is sort of a practical thing. The first mistake is to outsource their health and well-being to the experts out there. I say to my patients, you become the CEO of your health and well-being.
Wow.
That's where the buck stops. Take
Yeah.
responsibility. Yes, you want to form a robust team of caregivers, of experts, of consultants, of build strong relationships with your family doctor or whoever, or your GI specialist, whoever. But you take responsibility. And if they say something you don't quite understand, respectfully engage, if you can, in conversation. But the buck stops with you, right? So that's number one. So that's a mindset thing. Take responsibility for your health to shape it up. What do you want? Where do you want to be in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? You want to be dancing at your grandchildren's weddings. You don't want to be on a little, one of those walker stroller things at the age of 60, 70. You want to be having the hossen on your shoulders if you can, at the age of 85 and 90. I was just in England last week, and I saw an old-time patient, started working with over 30 years ago. He's now 90 years old. And he
Wow.
said to him, he is doing 35 push-ups at the age of 90, and I don't exaggerate. And I'll tell
Wow.
you a quick story. I hope if I'm going off piece here, Mendel, stop me, okay? I'm just very passionate about this topic. 18 months ago, he was walking to work, right, at the age of 88 and a half. This is downtown London. He tripped on the pavement and fell flat on his face. And that would have been the end of him. An 88-year-old falling on the face. It's a broken.
He was walking to work. He was still
Yeah,
working at
yeah,
88.
he's still working now at 90. Yes.
Wow. That's
But
incredible.
he fell flat on his, and this would have been the end of any senior person.
Yeah, definitely.
His hands came out. They broke his fall. He did not break his hands, his wrists, his arms. He dusted himself off, and he continued to work. The
Wow.
push-ups, Mendel, saved his life. He had
Wow.
stronger up enough collarbones, forearms. He was intact. And I will share, this dear man is my father.
Wow.
Yes, and he's a role model for me. I went to visit him last week, and when we were speaking, I said, Dad, listen, you got to get yourself a personal trainer, and you got to be doing your push-ups and get him onto a track, and he shouldn't be all kitty glove with you, get to it. And it saved his life.
Wow. That is
So
incredible.
your question was, what are some of the mistakes? So number one is take responsibility for your own health. And get experts, get a team. Oh, I'll tell you something else. It just came to me last week. I was at this medical conference last week. There was a double board certified lifestyle medicine doctor, real expert in her field, talking about advanced medical proactive screening and stuff like that. And one of the clinical directors said the following sentence: the body does an excellent job at hiding disease. And I thought, wow, I kind of intuitively knew that, but he helped me to understand that on a deeper level. In other words, most people go to the doctor when they're not feeling well, or they just self-medicate. It's like a light on the car dashboard that's saying there's an oil problem or a heating problem or an engine problem, and you just knock out the light, deal with the problem, right? So he was saying that by getting an annual checkup, check your blood pressure, check your glucose levels, check your inflammatory markers, just a basic screening, then you can see early warning signs. For example, men from the age of 50, 55, get your PSA, prostate-specific antigen. Make sure you get a baseline to track that. If that starts creeping up, you need to take intervention. So the mistake people make is just like going on, but the body hides disease because it's in survival mode, right?
Wow.
Diabetes doesn't send you a little note on your pillow, hey, my sugar level's high. Heart disease isn't, blood pressure issues. These are silent killers, Mendel.
Yeah.
So be proactive. The second thing is be proactive. Get yourself. When last did you have a medical checkup? When last did you have a blood test? Go to your doctor and say, I'll tell you this. He said I could say it in his name. This was many years ago. He said I could say it in his name. A very prominent Rav in Yerushalayim, Mashgiach, came to me and he said to me, Avraham, I'm well and I want to stay that way. What do I need to do? Like, firstly, my heart was full of joy. That is an exemplar of a Jewish leader who is, Chacham Einov Baroshai. He knows his public property. He's in service of Klal Yisrael. How could he guard his well-being? So I went through a whole program with him, and I think the next day or the day after, certain Talmidim heard that I'd recommended he needs to get a trainer, and he needs to get a treadmill, and he needs to do 20 minutes minimum, 3 days a week minimum of walking, of jogging stuff, and build up incrementally for his age and situation. I think 48 hours he had, with his wife's permission, he moved an entire bookshelf of Sfarim out of his home study, moved in his treadmill. Talmidim got together and bought him a fancy schmancy treadmill, and he's got himself a trainer. And this is Rabbi Noach Orlowick. Hashem should bless him with health and vigor, and his wife and family all the days of his life, and Yiddish Nachas from everyone. So that's an exception. I don't know, 1 out of 500 people come to me and say, I'm well and I want to stay that way. But that is called becoming the CEO of your health.
Wow. So inspiring. So true. I wanted to ask you more about diet. Is there any specific, there's so many diets now. You go on the internet, there's a new diet every single week. But is there any diet specifically that you see is really optimal for overall well-being and health, and gut health specifically?
Yes. There's the one I'm going to say, Sumera, and the Asay Tov, right? Stay away from, and then do the good stuff. It's as simple as that. So in my clinic, I tell my patients, listen, this is not a sprint, there's a marathon. So in my personal life, I enjoy foods that are not kind of ideal for the health. My let my hair down days are relatively clean, but you have to enjoy your food. But so it's not about extreme and saying no to this, no to that, no to this. It will catch a person in due course. It has to be a wholesome, rounded mindset and approach. So bottom line is, the processed foods we spoke about, the Sumera, things you should limit or get rid of as much as possible. The processed foods, the processed oils, and the added sugars. And any of your listeners who just want to make a humble beginning, for example, I have a patient who drinks like 6 cups of coffee a day. And that's not the problem. The problem is the 2 to 3 teaspoons of sugar per cup of coffee, I later discovered.
Wow. Yeah.
And I said, where do you want to start? And we had a sort of Middle Eastern negotiation discussion, and he agreed, just 1 teaspoon a week to reduce. And over 3 months, he'll slowly bring, and that is wholesome. That's healthy. You could go cold turkey. He chose not to do that. And it's several years later, and he's having a black coffee, no sweeteners. Because it takes the tongue about 21 days to change it's taste bud receptivity to sweet. So you can just change that, right? So number one, just slowly or gradually or overnight, however your personality decides, weed out the baddies. And then simultaneously eat a whole food, rainbow colored diet, meaning when you look at your plate, you want to see 75 to 80% vegetables and different kinds of vegetables, at least 5 different veggies, different kinds of lettuce and cucumber and carrots and kohlrabi. I said to my patients, go to the vegetable store and look at what you haven't bought that week or that month or that year. Like when did you buy a beet or kohlrabi or ginger root? Just try stuff. When I was in my world travels, Mendel, I was in a market in Malaysia, and like there were hundreds and hundreds of fruit and vegetables I've never seen in my life, like
Wow.
weird and wonderful stuff. So I made sure just to buy a bit of everything, just to see like, what are these fruit? What are these vegetables? What do they taste like? And so I just say, like, you want to look at your plate and you want to have the majority of vegetables, cruciferous vegetables, if you can, like broccoli, kale, the baby leaves. All these are very high in phytochemicals, plant-based chemicals that are powerfully anti-inflammatory, heal the blood, help digestion. And then your protein, a clean protein. If you're eating meat, fish, chicken, eggs, then that is a smaller portion. And the research is out there in terms of, I don't keep a plant-based diet because on Shabbos I have my wife's delicious chicken soup, I have a little bit of meat, but during the week I don't. That's my personal choice. During the week,
Basically what I do as well, plant-based, but on Shabbos, I eat chicken
yeah.
meat.
So that's I do that. That's my personal balance, because I'm
Yeah.
not looking for another ism. I have an ism in my life. I'm not looking for another one.
Yeah.
That's the balance for me, and that works. So during the week, I don't eat fish. I don't eat chicken or meat. I have a plant-based diet with whole grains and nuts and seeds and sprouts and fermentings and all sorts of yummy things.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you very much for sharing
Sure,
that.
sure.
So what would you say, how important also is exercise to overall health and gut health?
Exercise is king. Mendel, you don't need me to tell you that. But I tell you, with people with gut health, so many people come to me with constipation. I was on the Zoom last week with a woman in the States. She was taking 12 laxatives a day to
Wow.
get her bowels moving.
Wow.
So I teach something on my Heal Your Gut program called the Gut Glow, four different strategies just to set up the pillars of success for gut healing. And constipation is not a lack of laxatives, it's a lack of movement. So there's bowel movement. So movement on the inside is stimulated by movement on the outside. Movement is medicine, movement is motility. So start small, start simple. Go for a 10-minute walk after a meal. Take the stairs, not the elevator. Or get off at your work bus stop before and walk the 5 or 10 minutes until you sort of become an exerciser. And I think that's important piece, Mendel, is adopt the identity. I am an exerciser. It's not something you do. You
Hmm.
don't do exercise. You are an exerciser. Once you are an exerciser, like I don't do Jewish. I am a
Yeah.
Jew, right? So,
Yeah.
so once you see yourself and take on as an exerciser, and you're going to do this, the research is replete. Exercising will help your sleep, help your mood, help aging, help you age youthfully with longevity, heal disease. I mean, there was a video I posted recently, a 9-minute video, thoroughly worth watching, about the scientific research benefits of just a 20-minute walk 3 days a week. Lowering blood pressure, helping sleep, helping mood, helping digestion, boosting immune system. I mean, like the list is huge. So if any of you are listening and you are not yet exercising, I'm really extending a warm invitation to join Mendel and start moving your body.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Thank you. So if people remember, let's say just one lesson from this conversation 20 years from now, what would you want that lesson to be?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm reminded of a story. I think it's a true story, but it's a great story. Michelangelo was once asked, how did he create David? David was a marble sculpture of David Amelech, right?
Hmm.
So he said, how did you make? Because apparently there's a backstory. People struggled, people were so difficult, etc. And he said, it was easy. All I did was remove everything that wasn't David. And for me, the teaching is we are at our core whole, not broken, healthy. We have an innate well being. All
Wow.
we need to do is remove everything that's blocking the expression of our innate well being.
Wow. Wow. That's so beautiful and so true. So, Dr. Gundle, if people would like to work with you or do your programs and so forth, how can people get in contact with you or find your work?
Sure. Well, firstly, you can send us a WhatsApp. We'd love to hear from you. It's in Israel, so it's country code 972 54 991 1610 54 991 1610. Or go to our website, The Gut Health Specialists with an S.com. TheGutHealthSpecialists.com. And actually, in the middle of a 10-week online Heal Your Gut program. It's really for women at the moment. The women, people say, why are you running these programs for women? I'll say, firstly, b'schus nashim tzidkanu sigala. Everything good that's happening to Klal Yisrael is going to happen to lady folk. Us men, we're like in our cave, so we're behind the times. So that 10-week online program is a online program with a wonderful community, which is really distilling the 30 years of gut health experience and clinical practice into a quick start curriculum to help people get the help. And then actually this week, the timing is really incredible, Mendel, through this podcast. Next week, this week later, I'm launching something I've been wanting to do for years called the Heal Your Gut Academy. This is a monthly membership situation where you can come in early and be one of our founding members and inform the trajectory of the Heal Your Gut Academy. And it is a place, a hub, a one-stop hub to get all your gut health questions answered, not through ChatGPT or a Google search or whatever AI platform you're hanging out with today, but through clinical experience and a loving, warm, safe community just to really get real, raw, safely, appropriately vulnerable to discuss, bathroom habits people don't feel comfortable talking about the best times, but full permission is here is just to get the help you need. This is what we do, and that's launching this week. So you can
Wow.
send us a WhatsApp or an email to support@theguthealthspecialists.com.
Wow. It sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Gundle, for being here on the podcast. It was really a pleasure.
Mendel, firstly, thank you for inviting me. I've enjoyed this conversation, and you are a trailblazer, my friend. Okay, I see your WhatsApps, I see your posts. Like you're doing amazing things with your exercise and in stimulating, inviting people to really step up in their physical, mental, Jewish health. It's amazing, and I love what you're doing. Also, you're really closing the gap between Yiddishkeit and being frum and exercise. It's not you can be from and exercise, you normalizing it, you busting the myths. So I have full esteem and respect for the work you're doing, and Hashem should bless you just with health and happiness and Yiddish nachas and all good things for you and your listeners.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so, so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.